Mind you, I am a child. I don't know shit about sex education. I don't know nothing about my body. You are not ovulating. When you ovulate, you should ovulate a pearl ball. You are ovulating a pearl necklace. Baby, I don't know what the fuck that meant. Not one clue in the world.
Boy, now you make me float. Boy, you really give me high. Ooh, I feel like I'm on dope, 'cause you.
What's up? It's your girl, Cash Arroyo, and you are now listening or watching PCOS Unplugged. So this is episode 2. Episode 1 was just an audio. And I think that's how I'm going to flip-flop it. So 1 week is going to be audio, 1 week is going to be visual. And if you're lucky, you might get both on 1 week. I don't know. But I'm just, I guess, still testing out the waters of what I want to do. The first episode of PCOS Unplugged was just me introducing the podcast, what's to come, what you guys could expect. And so this week's episode is a little bit about me, my journey with PCOS, and a little bit more of what to expect on this podcast. Without further ado, my name is Cash Arroyo, and I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome at the age of 16. When I first realized something was amiss, honey, I literally had my period for a whole year. Now, when I say a whole year, I'm saying like my period would come for probably 28 days out of the month. And it wasn't always heavy. It would just be like spotting or heavy or mild. But nonetheless, I always was bleeding. And at this time, I was very young and I was still living with my mom. And if you grew up in a Caribbean household, you know things can be very strict around them parts. You hear me? And so I didn't want to set off any bells in my mom's head that I did something or I was doing something. So I just kind of shut up. That's why I yap so much today. Okay. So I didn't want to tell her, like, hey, like, this is what's happening to me. So I kind of just dealt with it silently. And I was stealing pads and tampons from my sisters, from my friends at school, from the school, and just keeping it quiet. I was very fatigued. I was anemic. And I was, again, afraid to tell anybody what was going on because of the fear of what my mom might say or do to me because she thought that I was messing with boys. That's the story for another day. So I had ran away sometime when I was 16. Now, sometimes like the timelines are just a little off because like time is just not real, and I could barely remember what happened last week. So sometimes my times might be a little off. So if something doesn't ever seem like the timeline was correct in a story that I'm telling you, just know I be off sometimes. Okay. So when I ran away around the age of like 16, I had went to a little like medical facility down the street that my family had went to. They actually had pictures of my cousins and stuff up there. So I went to the doctor's office and I was just like, hey, like I'm bleeding very heavily. I don't know what's going on, but I've been bleeding for a very long time. So he did some workup, some lab on me. And then when I went back to get my results, he was like, yeah, you're not ovulating correctly. Okay. Mind you, I am a child. I don't know shit about sex education. I don't know nothing about my body. So he was like, you are not ovulating. When you ovulate, you should ovulate a pearl ball. You are ovulating a pearl necklace. He's like, it's not breaking off like it should. Baby, I don't know what the fuck that meant. Not one clue in the world. So he was like, if you want to have children in the future, it's going to be very difficult. So you're going to have to come back and see me or see a specialist to be able to help you to have children in the future. I was like, baby, don't nobody want them damn kids. I'm out of here. I am 16. So he was like, I'm going to give you some birth control and that's going to help regulate your period. So I was like, I bet. So I took the birth control for a week, only a week, because it made me nauseous. I was throwing up. I felt sick, queasy. And that is a side effect. That's just something that you have to fight through when you get on birth control. But baby, I'm not fighting through nothing. I don't like throwing up. And I'm pretty sure nobody likes to throw up. But me, I personally hate it. I will do everything I can not to throw up. So the fact that I was taking something that was making me nauseous like that, queasy, nah. So after a week of taking this and suffering, I was suffering. I got off of it. And would you look at that? My period stopped. My period regulated. It was the craziest thing I ever seen. It only took a week for me. Life went back to normal until I hit 23 years old. And then when I turned 23, I started noticing that I had a lot of cystic acne. And at that time, I was a full-time college student. I worked overnight as a security guard for clubs. I also worked at a racetrack, the gas station. I was also in football and any extracurricular activities that I could get my hands on while in college. And of course, I had a very busy, active life amongst all them things that I'm already doing. When I started to notice the acne, I did know that I already had insomnia. I just chalked it up to working overnight. I work overnight, I'm busy throughout the day. Sleep is just not my friend right now because of everything that I'm doing. So I wasn't really chalking it up to anything other than my jobs. So when I started to get really bad cystic acne, I was like, oh my God. Like I've always had acne, like here and there. But when I say this acne took over my entire face, and if you are watching this on YouTube, you will see the videos, you will see the pictures that I am going to post because it was literally night and day from having like one or two little acne bumps to a full-fledged full of acne. So I started taking out the things that I would eat. I stopped eating cheese, I stopped eating dairy, I stopped eating chicken. I mean, I was doing everything I could as along the lines of like my diet, but nothing was working. I want to say that when I stopped eating chicken, it probably helped for like 2 minutes. But then it was the same thing over and over again. I was literally consumed with acne. And then after the acne started coming on, obviously I compared that to my sleep issues. I wasn't getting enough sleep. And then I started to notice I was gaining weight. Now, I've always been a size 3 my whole life. I was a size 3 girly. I was like 120 pounds. The most I think I had ever hit was like 150. And I was happy there because I was in weightlifting, so I was building the muscle for my body. I looked gorgeous, still do. So I didn't really think too much of it. But that's a problem. I should have. So once I started to realize all of these things were happening to me at once, I was like, bro, gaining weight, that's crazy for me. Cystic acne, that's insane. So I started to go online one night because I was wide awake and I started to Google like all of my symptoms and PCOS popped up. It was so funny because when I looked it up, there was only two like things about PCOS that popped up. There was not a lot of information. So for me, I was like, okay, well, I feel like this is what I have. I went to a doctor. I didn't go to my family practitioner at the time because this was years later and I was living on the other side of Florida at the time. So I went to a doctor and I was like, hey, I think that I have PCOS. Here's the reasons why I have PCOS. And the doctor was like, I don't think you have PCOS, but we can run some blood work, da da da, and then we'll call you back and let you know. So when it was time to come back from my second visit, he was like, I got your results back and you do have PCOS. And he was like, wow, are you a doctor? And I was like, yes. Yes, I'm a doctor. From that moment forward, it was just like, okay, I feel comfortable in knowing that I have like a diagnosis, whatever. And I'm going to learn as much as I can about this so that I can heal my body. I went to an endocrinologist. An endocrinologist gave me a prescription for metformin, told me to get on birth control, eat healthy, go to the gym. While all those things at first may sound really good, my intuition was like, hell nah, bitch. No. So I told him I was good off of that birth control and I told him why. And he was just like, oh, well, you have to work through it. No. If you as a man don't know what the symptoms feel like of birth control, don't tell me to get on it. I think that's unfair. So give me metformin. And at this point, I had already done a little bit of research about metformin and I was kind of on the fence about it. I left. I went home and I left the metformin prescription in my car. And I think like maybe 2 weeks had passed. And then one day I was like, you know what? Let me try the metformin and see what happens. Y'all, I kid you not. I kid you fucking not. I was literally driving down the road. I had the windows down. And why did this metformin prescription fly out of my window? Fly out of my window. So I'm like, oh my God, I got to turn around and get it. No, it just kept going and going and going. So I took that as my reasoning to not be on metformin. Outside of all of the things I've already researched and knowing what metformin could do, pros and cons, the cons were what kind of like were overweighed the pros. So when it flew out of the window, I was like, yeah, I'm not getting back. I'm not getting on metformin. I'm good off that. So now I'm living with PCOS. I know that I have PCOS. I'm trying to eat healthy. I'm going to the gym. I'm doing all the things, but I'm assuming I'm depressed, right? And I say assuming because I have down days, but I'm not really sure if I'm like depressed. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm still doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm still happy. I'm still doing me. But there are moments where I'm like, damn, like this is my reality. I'm covering my face with pounds of makeup. I have my hair in front of my face to cover the cystic acne. And I am feeling very insecure. But even though I'm feeling insecure, I'm still that bitch. I don't know how to explain it to y'all because even though with a face full of acne, I still felt the same, like the beautiful person that I am. But there were times where I would feel insecure, like, oh my God, are men gonna judge me? Are women gonna judge me? Like, am I gonna be able to find a partner like this? And I think that it is very easy to think like that when you're dealing with something like that. It's kind of hard to see like the light at the end of the tunnel. And I know a lot of people deal with this issue, like feeling like they're not beautiful enough or they're not worthy enough because they have cystic acne, they've gained a little bit of weight. Trust me, sister, I've been there. From someone who used to wear a size 3 up until they were like 24, and now I'm a size 13. Decided one day because I hadn't been posting a lot on Instagram. So I decided one day. Now, mind you, this is when Instagram, this was like 10 years ago, okay? I'm 33, about to be 34 in a month. So when I posted this about my PCOS, I was 23, 24. I posted a picture of my face riddled with acne. And in the comments, I just kind of told everybody what I had been dealing with, what I was diagnosed with, and how I had been feeling. Saw that post, like it flew off the charts. It was at like 240,000 like likes at the time. Mind you, this is very early in Instagram days when it was very hard to like really, I mean it still is. Like Instagram has always been that girl that's like you have to be perfect to be here. So when I seen those numbers and all of the women who were like, "Oh my god, I can relate to you." I was like, "Damn, like I found my community. I found what I was supposed to be doing, bitch." And so at this point, I was doing a bunch of things. I was in college to be a sports analyst broadcaster. And basically, that means I will be on TV. I would be broadcasting the news, not the news, I would be broadcasting sports news. I would be talking about sports. I would be interviewing players. At this time, I was in college and I was already interviewing players at UCF, and I was in school to do all things sports. Honestly, I don't know if I had like a true love for sports. Like, I don't really know. I'm not sure. I don't really fucking know, but I know for sure that nobody wants to see a woman in a male dominated field with cystic acne. Who wants to look at that? You know what I'm saying? So, in 2016, I was dealing with the realities of maybe I will never have clear skin again. I was gaining weight. I had just lost my cousin to cancer. I had almost lost my father to cancer in Puerto Rico. And the shooting in Orlando that killed multiple people in a gay club happened that same weekend that my dad almost passed. And I did lose a friend. And it was just a lot that happened in 2016. So I decided to drop out of college. And if I could go back today and tell that girl, like, hey, keep going, you know, keep going because this is not your reality. Things get better. This is not, you don't get stuck in tunnels. Nobody gets stuck in tunnels, except that one guy who went upside down in a cave. It's not funny. Nobody gets stuck in tunnels. You will always find your way out, or someone will help you find your way out. And I wish I was that confident in knowing that this is not going to be my forever. And even if it was my forever, like, so what? You are intelligent. You're on top of your shit. Listen, even to this day, I can do anything. Like, someone could teach me something and I can do anything. I can do everything I put my mind to. And I don't know if it has to do with my ADHD, maybe being on the spectrum, but I wish that I could go back and show that girl. And if you are on my YouTube channel and you go back, I think to my videos in 2016, 2017, when my face was riddled with acne, I didn't care. I still made beauty content. I still showed up even when I was insecure with my face. I covered my face with makeup, but I still felt beautiful. But there are videos on there where I was truly authentic to myself and I didn't feel beautiful. I didn't feel my happiest. I was crying because I felt like being relatable and being authentic was the most important thing in my journey. And so when I started to realize that my community of PCOS women did not have a voice, did not have people that they can look up to or really understand, I told myself that I have to be that person. And that's who I became. After all these years, I became a specialist in PCOS. I understood the body. I took classes at Harvard, which were free. I started reading forums. I started reading research. I started looking at clinical studies. I started to put some of my own clinical studies together. There was just a lot that I have done in these past 10 years working in this field. And that is really what led me to be like this girl, that girl with PCOS. It was my love for understanding that this is very complicated, but it doesn't have to be. And the sooner that we have people who actually care about the science, our bodies, and the depths of things, the quicker it is for us to heal ourselves, the quicker it is for us to be able to live a life that's truly authentic to ourselves. And not a lot of women have that. They don't have that support system. A lot of women, a lot of men, they can't read a lot of the forums and the studies that are put out there because they're kind of hard to read. It truly is hard. A lot of people don't have the time or the resources to actually go dive deeper. People have children, people have jobs, a few jobs, more than one jobs. People are living different lives than we are aware of. And no two people are the same. So when I started doing my research and my work in the PCOS community, that is when I found like my home, my niche. I've been doing PCOS content, PCOS research, PCOS everything for such a long time and for free. I've never charged anybody. Well, actually, I'm lying. I did start doing like a one-on-one basis where I would help people read their labs and actually help them with their lifestyle with PCOS. I did start doing something like that recently, but then I kind of just pulled back a little bit because the work was a lot and I didn't know what I was getting myself into, honey. But outside of that, all the work and everything that I've ever put out there has been free. I've wanted to write a book. I've started to write a book, but never finished it because the thoughts of having to find a publisher and all of these things, they definitely put a dark cloud over me. And with someone with ADHD, there's just so much things to do. I started a podcast and then I stopped and then I started one again. I started so many social media platforms. I became a UGC creator. I mean, I have done so much in so little of time, and I'm truly, truly proud of myself. Yeah. In this episode of PCOS Unplugged, this is my life unplugged. This is who I am. This is how I got onto the journey of PCOS. This is how I have been able to heal my body. This past year, I went through something very personal and I gained a lot of weight. And it wasn't because I was overeating, even though I was eating good, but it wasn't because of that. It was because of the stress that my body played into. And I think that a lot of people are so ignorant to stress. Basically what that means is that people have no idea how much stress can cause you to hold on to weight, can cause you to gain weight, can hinder your stress hormone. It is such a big thing. And I gained a lot of weight this past year. Sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, wow, like that's kind of sad that I'm a PCOS specialist and I let this happen to myself. But then I also remembered I'm just a normal person like everybody else. Like everybody else. I felt very hard this year. I fell into a depression this year. I didn't have my routines. I didn't have myself. And I feel like I opened up another level of my brain that wasn't opened up. Like frontal lobe developed this year. And I feel like these next 12 months for my life are really going to be radical. It's going to be a radical change. I'm going to be able to get back to who I used to be, how I used to look, how I used to feel. And I'll be able to do that with my community watching, with us doing it together, with showing you that it is possible. If you want to do it holistically, you can. If you want to take a GLP-1, you can. You shouldn't feel shame in how you decide to heal your body of PCOS. We're all living different lives. We all have different symptoms. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and it's to heal ourselves and to be authentically ourselves and feel good in the body that we have, regardless of what anybody else thinks. If you have been watching, thank you so much. If you've been listening, thank you so much. I cannot wait for you guys to continue to be a part of this community, a part of this podcast, In the future episodes, I will be reading questions that people give me. I will have guests come on here, but I did want to kind of save these first few episodes on just getting to know me, getting to know my path, and just getting to know a little bit more about PCOS before we jump into all the other fun things. So, thank you guys so much again, and as always, mwah, I love y'all.